I would put this one on the category of, and I'm playing against myself because I'm more in the category of the guy who has lots of diplomas, etc. But you know, if you see someone who is successful without diplomas, that means that he could break all the barriers. He's a good salesperson, etc. So that it's like at the same level of success.
Yeah.
Is the person with
for success you need some technical capabilities and all those invisible skills that you need to develop the thing, you know, those reflexes, attraction for success, etc. And in fact, the success is made of those visible and invisible part of the iceberg. And you need both. You can't have only one of the other.
Yeah.
But if someone is lacking technical capabilities and is still successful, automatically that means that he's good in this invisible part. So it's like a diploma that you can give on that invisible part,
yeah,
which is essential, particularly the sales capability, etc.
Yeah,
the intuition of the market, of the clients.
And also he's been able to sell himself without any credentials, without having any introductions. Yeah. So he'll probably also sell his product well.
So yeah.
Wait, what's
you see? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, please go.
I was saying, you see that again. I'm going back to the fact that a good mathematical system, a good statistical system, should naturally focus on things that matter like that.
Oh yes.
So that means also you should feed it with unexpected things, because if you only feed it with like what you expect, you will see only what you expect.
And also your model will not perform better than anyone else's model, so you'll have no edge.
Yes, something, but sure. But you see, if basically what you want to do is, I remember once I was in a conference and you know, they have those you know, the celebrity that they invite, you know, for to entertain the audience. And that day was Kasparov. And Kasparov told a story. He said, I want to tell you something. You're all, you know, people in mathematical finance, etc. I'm a chess player. And one day, a guy organized a tournament online. And for some reason, he was not seeking that. He was a good chess player. He was grandmaster, but not international level. But he was, you know, hanging around. And at some point, the biggest players decided to participate. It was not planned, but we just decided. There was him, there was Anand, there was Kramnik, etc. They all decided to participate to that tournament. So there was a little handful of the top world players, and at the same time some other, because it was big tournaments, it was completely open, etc. And guess what? None of us won the tournament, even though we were the best player in the world. And the guys who won was actually a pair of people. One was you know, same thing, international level player, but nowhere close to where they are.
Nope.
And another guy who was a computer, who had a good computer to play chess, but nothing close to Deep Blue, etc. I mean, it was just something off the shelf. It was a good software of the shelf. And it turned out that the two guys were very well communicating each other. So one had the intuition, and the computer was suggesting moves different moves, and also was protecting against what would happen in two three moves. I mean, it would prevent you from making major mistakes.
Yeah.
And those two guys won because they were, so this articulation, good articulation of human intelligence had something that machine will have a hard time getting, which is what we call intuition.
Yeah.
And some okay intelligence, but not at the top level. I mean, the artificial intelligence. And that pair won against the biggest humans and the biggest machines. If I compare to what I was saying, you see that the human was listening to the machine, was taking into account what the machine was saying, but he was bringing to the machine something the machine was not able to have. Machine would have proposed, move, and had every time, he wasn't proposing one move, he was proposing 4 or 5 moves. And the humans, was feeling, oh, maybe this one is not top ranked by the machine, but I prefer this one.
Yeah. That's actually something Professor Gerd Gigerenzer is working on. He calls it psychological AI. He's trying to mathematically formulate heuristics and integrate them.
So that's more difficult.
Yeah.
That's. I remember I had once, a conversation. It was in a conference. One of our clients came to it, and it was after the crisis. So 2009 was the market was rebounding, etc. And I was with our sales for the US, head sales, who himself used to have a fund, was trained at investing, etc. And the client say, here's our portfolio, and there was one of the fund was a commodity fund, and your system is saying that it's doing 10% risk of the whole portfolio, which is beyond what we can accept. It wasn't supposed to be more than 5% risk contribution of that particular fund. And it was essentially, commodity investment. And I remember having the conversation and say, okay, well, first asking how comfortable are you with commodity risk? What do you see it? We don't have much view, we're just in rebouncing market, I don't know, etc. And then I said, look, I'm not a financial expert, but expert in system. I've made lots of simulations. Do you think you humans are really able to beat a completely stupid automated system that the simulation that I did? And the consequence said, okay, let's cut the investment in this fund and bring it back to where it's supposed to be, etc. And I remember my friend who was sales, so he's an investor, and he looked at me, after the client left. Raphael, you never give us financial advice to a client, that we have been very cautious. Yeah, I saw, but still, they will take it. If it doesn't work, they will blame you, etc., and they will blame the company. Turned out, finally, it was a good decision, but still, in fact, they came back. It was very positive because, we've been lucky. Probably they had missed out a lot because they cut out that investment. Maybe the story would have been different. But they said, you gave us a big lesson, to first see whether us human can do so much better than the machine. And that gives us, a level of trust in the machine, which is different. That is, first, let's see the machine, as stupid as it is, what it does, and think whether you can do better. I'm not talking here like an index, you have to beat the index, etc. Yeah. If you get a machine that is beating the index, you have to beat the index more than the machine is beating the index. And that's not easy. That's what is not easy. Can you do that? I'm sure, you see, the same thing, here, it's like you get this stupid computer, as I was saying, off the shelf, one of the best one on the shelf, but not Deep Blue. And suppose it plays. It will reach a certain level, it will beat a certain number of people, but against a Kramnik or a Kasparov, no chance. So you really have to think, you as human, what can you bring on top of that?
Yeah.
And not the opposite. It's not what the machine says. What can I bring on top of what the machine is stupidly suggesting? Now we talk. Is my heuristic? Well, normally the machine has the heuristics as well, because the machine will have identified it, etc. Or if the machine doesn't have the heuristic, then you have a problem with the machine. And that's where you see the difference between linear models and nonlinear models. So I'm doing all my polymodel is a method for doing nonlinearities. Of course, a neural network, whatever the kind of neural network, is by essence nonlinear. It's made of S-curve all over the place, etc. So these are two methods. Now, what the plus that I'm developing currently on this hedge fund analysis, etc. I'm doing on hedge fund because that's really my playground, but it's something very general. I gave it a name actually, but I have to publish it. I call it panesthetic analysis. It's analysis of sensitivities. You know, when you do any machine learning system, people, ask supervised, unsupervised, etc. I don't like the idea of unsupervised, even though it has some level of success, for the following reason. I'm not saying, our own intelligence was eventually unsupervised. It started from nothing. But we got 1 billion years of evolution.
Yeah.
I saw recently an interview of Yann Lequin saying that at 5 years, a child has seen much more than the biggest LLM system can have seen or heard, etc. And something like, he estimated about 100 times more. Plus, you don't count the fact that, in fact, we are not unsupervised, because our DNA is itself some kind of supervision. And this one has been worked out through billions of years of evolution.
And besides that, we're also getting some cultural things passed on by the cultural medium, by the school, society.
Yeah, cultural is already a human notion.
Yeah.
I'm talking of pre-human, learning, and where how did we break through as animals, either through multiplication of statistical. We make so many babies like turtles, to get one that survives, 100 are born, and just when they get out of their egg already, I know 3/4 are eaten by eggs, and others by birds, etc. So or fish, who make thousands of eggs for one that will eventually survive. We get the same level of selection, but at a much microscopic level. When we get, we have to do 100 or 300,000 spermatozoids for one single egg. But otherwise, once the baby is there, we work more on protecting the baby until it becomes, a self-protecting individual. If you look at the animals, the grass eaters tend to do more babies and have a bigger statistical risk. The predators are closer to their babies, make less babies, and try to make each of them survive. But still, there is a big loss rate. They estimate that I think the life expectation of cheetah or tiger in the zoo is about twice as long in a zoo than in nature. There's to give you, the order of magnitude. Of course, people will say in nature they're happier, etc. But in terms of life expectation, it's not comparable.
When I said culture, actually meant the taboo stuff, the taboo side.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, anyway, what I mean, the point is here that the fact that where we are today as human beings is the result of millions of years of evolution.
Yeah.
And it's a very complex system that we reach that. That's why, I mean, we can train a computer, but you see that an artificial intelligence will be extremely sensitive how we choose how we train it.
And also whether it's computationally feasible.
Yeah, there is also that. But now, suppose that I get a phone or a stock, etc., and I train an AI with thousands and thousands of histories of phones and stocks, etc. And I ask the question, what will be the next return? Will be a winner or a loser in the next year, or in the next 3 months, whatever. And there you see that you are climbing a wall that is extremely difficult to climb, which is called efficient market hypothesis. Even though you train as much as you can, I mean, suppose that it worked, that people would rush to it. You just put that in a computer, you press a button, you blah, 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 optimization. I get my super neural network, which is a genius investor. And it doesn't work. And it's not that it just doesn't work, you know, of course I can make jokes, etc. The reality, I've seen people trying it. They're absolutely convinced and it doesn't work. Now, the thing that I'm trying to do, and that's where, you know, I'm trying to go to that next step, or at least bring my step within all this analysis, which is instead of giving a history, I'm saying a system is not alone. It lies, it's like a fish in the water. So what I should put is not only what this fish is, etc., is how it reacts to the water. So if I want to know whether you're a good driver, actually I have a friend who did an insurance company based on that. I will tell you, that's funny. If I want to know how much I should charge you for insurance, I should not only look at, you know, your history and how you are in this statistic, I should look at how you drive. And what is your reaction to different situations? How you drive is not just whether you respect the speed limit and you're well in the middle of your lane, etc. It's how you react when something unexpected comes. How stable is your driving? Are you always awake? You tend to get some absence or fall asleep or lose attention, etc. How do you react if suddenly a bike pops up, another car pops up, someone does not respect priority and you have to react, etc. That's where I get the information on how safe you are as a driver. And so same thing in here. That's what I call panesthetic analysis. Panesthetic analysis will first analyze the sensitivity of the system you want to analyze to a number of risk factors that describe the behavior of the market, that describe the behavior of the environment. So if it's about self-driving, if it's about a car, the environment is made of whatever can perturb your driving. If it's financial markets, it's a move of different risk factors. And with particular focus on large moves, as we said, not just the small moves, because we get threshold effects.
Yeah.
Never forget that a credit risk, a liquidity risk, is not the risk that, you know, of something that is illiquid or something that has a poor credit. The biggest risk is a risk of change of category. Something that you thought was liquid is no longer liquid because the market dries up. Something that you thought was AAA or AA and then suddenly change category to non-investment grade. This is the biggest risk. So the risk of something going from one category to another is bigger than the risk of being in a poor category.
Right, because at least you don't have any. I mean, I think it's not only risk; it's also uncertainty, right? Before you see the.
Yeah, people call it this way. I mean, the difference between risk and uncertainty was coined by this economist called Knight in 1920, something like that. And his formal definition of risk is what is in the model, and uncertainty is what is outside the model.
Yeah.
And that drove a century of faulty risk analysis, because he inverted the role of the terms. Uncertainty is a mathematical problem. It's a random variables, right? Randomness, etc. You can put it in math. Risk is life. So by putting the word risk for the math, it was basically passing the message, you can put the life in the math and you can rely on the math.
Yep.
That was a very good thing to sell the math, but that's something very bad for risk takers. So it was the perfect way to sell faulty math, all those models, that were based on thin tails and etc. Because you got risk, you got it.
Yeah.
You could make regulation. What is magic with value at risk? That you get one figure that tells you if I respect that figure, then I'm good. It's like, I'm saying, well, I'm not getting fired. Even if the fire takes place, I won't get fired.
Yeah.
And here you get the same the same issue, but so logically you should say uncertainty is what is in the model and risk is the reality, including externalities. That should be the right wording, even though the common wording in economics is the exact opposite.
And this wording is quite prevalent. I mean, the conventional one is prevalent in all the industries, even at this point, not only in economics or finance.
Because people need regulation to be legal. So people will come down. You should see, you should go and hang around in any racing, horse racing, car racing. I did boat racing, etc. And then you get norms. I mean, you have all the cars have to go through a certain number of constraints, so that you can be eligible for the race. Otherwise, you get eliminated. And at some point, for instance, for boat, it was funny because they were measuring the size of the boat between the very, and instead of measuring the hull, from A to Z, they measured from the front point until the how do you call it in English, that gives a direction, the gouvernail in French.
Steering? No, steering wheel. Steering wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is this bar. So what did they do? They put it in the middle of the boat, and the hull was going, twice as long behind. So whatever, if you put regulation, people will always find a way to go around it. And that's why, I think in the way I was saying that the goals should be simple. It shouldn't but in a good model has very simple goals determined in very simple terms, but the method to reach them is where you get all the complexity
and the risk.
And that's why
yeah.
yeah. So the risk for me is how much you earn at the end, how much you lose. I mean, what's the size of your loss? Period. How you achieve the measure of the size of the loss is another question.
It's the same situation with directives. You get the goal, but you don't get the means, and you choose them by yourself. And sometimes, I mean,
yeah, but you see, by saying, okay, well, you have to produce a figure.
Yes.
And I don't want that figure to be overpassed more than 1% of the time. Then you reach a figure that fulfills this need. That figure will not represent your risk of failure. You see, it takes me, I don't know, 3 days for an institutional to give you a system that to give you a figure that will not be overpassed more than 1% of the time. It will make me 10 years to build a system that to give a figure every day, to build a system that produces a figure every day that is never passed. Why so? Because the number of things that you have to think about is, I mean, that little percent, and that's why they put the percent.
Yeah, you reach what you measure.
And that's why that if you really want to know the real risk, you have to go through a different thing. And that's why I call this panesthetic analysis. You know, it's really analyzing the sensitivities, identifying which variables can have an impact, and identifying the sensitivities, including all the thresholds, so the nonlinear sensitivity, in some way, some stress tests. So in other words, what scenario of your environment can be deterrent to your system.
Right.
That's how I see risk.
Yeah.
Identifying the scenarios.
So it's a scenario-based approach after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was also still giving, you know, this metaphor with cars. Suppose you have two systems. First system, every time you enter the car, you get an automatic voice that tells you today you have a 1.34% of having an accident you know, and among those, you know, 0.33% of breaking a leg, etc. Okay. And then the second system is much less precise. Just telling you all, you know, I saw the weather, it's gonna rain, and I remind you that your tires are pretty smooth, so maybe you should check your tires and change the tires, because if there is an accident, they won't hold to the road because it's gonna rain.
Yeah.
You see, the second system is not giving you precise information, but it's actually where to act to change the things.
So in another case, you would be more cautious about
That's silly, the idea that you're saying.
Yes, you get something to act on.
Yeah.
You know where, if there is a risk, you know where it's coming from. You see, and if I'm talking markets, for instance, system will tell you, well, your investment looks like okay, except if there is a big crisis on the oil market. And in here, you're super exposed. Or if there is such a scenario, and you get super exposed. So, and that's where you have to focus on.
Yeah. No, you've mentioned insurance and many other industries and the possible areas of application. And we've actually interviewed many founders on our show. And some of them, they were applying large language models to some very interesting use cases and some very, let's say, boring, unsexy legacy industries, such as maritime shipping or agriculture.
You also shared a link about
the
applying AI in agriculture.
about Indian startup.
Yeah.
AI in agriculture.
No, we had lots of people doing so. I mean, every single, that's why you were asking, every single industry will have a use of AI. I mean, in agriculture, you can save a lot in the use of pesticide, for instance.
or fertilizer or
fertilizers, etc. In the time by observing. Talking, you know, the people have categorized me as anti-vax for the COVID. I'm not anti-vax at all. I'm just saying something which is common sense, that not everyone reacts in the same way and it turns out that the vaccination who acts on people, people react differently, but the vaccination accident, which exists, contrary to what lots of people want to not say, they do exist. And also people have, you know, some people are impacted by the disease itself. But the vaccination, like the base principle of any vaccination, the vaccination has a similar effect to the disease. That's normal. Yeah. Most of vaccination accidents which occur with all the things, they are very similar to the disease that they are supposed, because in fact you induce the disease at a lower level and you count on the body to react.
Yeah.
Turned out with this particular disease that the reactions, some people were dying of the disease itself and some people were dying of overreaction to the disease. So it was very subtle, you know, to know what was the right dosage that you should put to people to induce a protection without inducing the disease.
Yeah.
And of course, it depends on people. Not everyone is the same. So how do you get that? You get that first by trying to find the variables, and probably, you know, you should get different dose for different type of people. I have an Indian friend, and she was saying not the vaccination, the COVID itself killed much more in the richer layer of the population than in the poorer layer. Because in India, when you are poor, you're really, really poor. Yeah. And people live on top of each other. And so just by survivorship, they tend to have a very strong immune system. A bit like the bats in the cave, actually. Why do you think people do study bats? Because bats live so much on each other that their immune system is extremely strong. So they can stand very strong viruses and still survive, etc. So that when these virus came, so of course that's a major variable, the social position of the people, which has an impact on the hygiene of their life, has obviously, you know, a very strong impact. I'm not saying people should live in bad hygiene. I'm just saying, just, you know, after the fact, they certainly have much more child mortality, but those who survive have a stronger immune system.
Yeah.
So the level of vaccine that you can afford and whether the vaccine is useful, etc., for the problem is not the same for different categories of population. For young people, for aged people, etc., for fit people and for fat people, etc. All of those variables were obviously important. So they are observable variables.
Yeah.
And then there is just, you know, the fact. I have a friend who lost his father stupidly because got first injection and the father did a little stroke, small one. But they insisted that the stroke was not unrelated to the vaccination. Get the second shot and he died from the second shot.
Okay.
I mean, you get all the stories, which was the opposite. I mean, people were afraid of vaccination and people, you know, died of not being vaccinated. I mean, you don't know. Maybe if they had been vaccinated, they would have died also. Who knows? But you see, I mean, observation, admitting that the same dose does not work for everyone and that it should be adapted with the information you get is something, you see, that's what you get with any system, any statistical system is, you know, that's why you need to identify the variables, adapt your response to the variable that you see, and also adapt in a dynamic way and not just in a static way. So I took this controversial example. because I think it's important as a lesson. You see, the lesson is not being pro or anti-vax. It's simply use observation, use information as you have it.
Especially piecewise observation and not aggregate data.
Yeah.
I think we'll cut this part, the controversial part, and just use it in shorts and put in the front to get some nasty comments.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's fine. Do whatever you
No,
want.
we're just kidding. Yeah.
We were just
No, you're responsible.
When you have haters, you're anti-fragile because you always get attention and
Like Nassim always
Oh yeah,
just
Nassim is we had big controversy with Nassim, but you know the point is here is to get out of this stupid you know pro or anti-vax etc. I mean I always go for take information and act accordingly.
Yeah, well, the worst thing about the crisis was actually the lack of conversation.
Yeah.
Not pro or contra, but the lack thereof of
they
conversation.
always label you as
Some
with us or
and for some reason
Yeah, exactly.
they mix
Well,
the
that goes
ideology.
that goes. Look, we get a war in Ukraine now, a problem in Israel and Gaza, etc. And it's always the same thing. You're with us or against us. Okay, well,
there's no room
the
for
idea of
conversation.
the side is you know trying to.
And ideology shouldn't always be involved in these topics.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Now people can you know.
Do you have any AI companies that you're following closely? Maybe some because you're usually talking to industry professionals and to finance guys and
Well,
maybe
you mentioned
particular-
Mistral. I have no experience of Mistral.
Yeah.
I know it's a French tech, but you see with US capital, etc. As soon as you get something that works, I mean, France is totally unable. It's way too bureaucratic to get successful. That's why also I went to the US, etc. People talk, you know, of the end of the American empire. There is still today an entrepreneurial dynamism in the US, which will make it live. The danger of the US, I would say, politically speaking, is that is the fact that the government itself becomes captured by a few companies, etc. So it's more of a capture of the government by the business. So they will complain that if you go to Russia or China, that they do the opposite. There is a very strong government who prevents the business from capturing. So they say, okay, well, but it's one or the other. If you don't, I mean, either you get a government that will be deemed non-democratic because it puts some bounds to business, or the opposite danger is that the business captures the government, which is not necessarily better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's. But there is a dynamism in the US in terms of venture capital, which is unparalleled. Maybe I've been in Shenzhen. I was working in Shenzhen. The development of Shenzhen is amazing. Also, that the only place that could compare to Silicon Valley in terms of this dynamism. Now that being said, in terms of LLM, except some small projects of some friends, had a friend who was trying to detect that the two things that I've seen that were successful in LLM, and even that was already a few years ago, so I haven't followed it recently, and there is so much progress in it. It's one friend who was he was working at Bank of America, was trying to anticipate fraudulent behavior through some analysis of the messaging between traders. So to prevent beforehand and warn the traders that they were entering an unhealthy territory by anticipating through their exchange that they were about to commit something illegal before they would do it. Another friend did an ESG ETF in which he was saying that E and S are very commonly measured, etc., but G, nobody has a clue. And they did a pure LLM system to analyze actually the reports of the companies. And they found something interesting, that they found that the bankruptcy risk, etc., was anticipated by a drift of the language of the report towards legal words. So the more they were using legal language, the more they were, entering into anticipating, consciously or not, that they would have some problems to deal with.
Yeah.
And his ETF, small thing, but I forgot the thing, but he's still making several % above the index, simply thanks to that.
Such an overlooked piece of information.
Exactly. So there are some. Now the rest is I'm just following. I followed all the evolution of the one I really followed was ChatGPT. Is how it's able, for instance, to go from. There was some jokes, because it was pure like a monkey, repeating what it was hearing. So GPT-3 was totally unable to do math, even simple exercise.
Yeah.
And now it starts doing something.
But very unreliably.
Yeah, it was also, there's still a big problem that is inventing references. And that's very troublesome because, we get some sense of being able when, in the same way we're able to detect someone who is lying, someone who is inventing stories, etc. We are sensitive to that. We can detect, by the language something. But the big trouble you have with those automatic language generators, the Gen AI, etc., is the fact that they will generate something that looks, there is no emotion in the computer, but it conveys emotion. So you'll get really the impression that you get something very sound and is said with big assurance, etc., except it's totally invented. And honestly, when I'm referring papers, I receive, papers, I have to be a referee in all of these. Between you and me, do I absolutely verify every single reference that are cited? But at some point you trust the authors that they are not inventing, they're not bullshitting you, that they are not inventing completely references. If the guy says, okay, well, this theorem has been proven in this paper, you go on the net. I mean, if it's a key point, yes, you verify. But if it's, one of the things, they say, okay, you just, you trust that the guy is not completely, inventing things. And you check the logic of his reasoning, but you don't check every single reference in it.
There's actually a tool that checks all the references. It's called Perplexity AI.
Yeah, there is but you see that you need to go through the net. But even, you see, it's not only that you need to see that the reference exists. You need to verify that the article is saying what the author is saying about the article. And in math, that's particularly important because if the guy says this theorem has been proven in this article, so I can use it as a result in my theorem, well, you have to verify that this theorem was applicable in the context that he was saying, that the hypotheses were the same, etc. That's what properly you should do. Do everyone does that in math? I can assure they don't.
So towards the end of this conversation, Raphael, I'll just add that I've been part of your participation in the RURI and primers. And all this information that you've told us is you've explored in detail in your Excels and in your PowerPoints, and you went well deep into the dynamic processes and primers and probabilities. So I can recommend anyone who is just starting out a business or a startup, or who is a professional, to just take this course, not only once, but sometimes also later in their life, maybe, to delve deeper into these things, because they're really important.
We'll leave the link to the Google Forms in the description of the video, but could you tell us more about the primers and these versions, this year's participants?
Sorry,
Could just explain
the kind of participants.
Yes, I mean the speakers.
The
speakers, yeah.
Oh, the speakers. I mean, there is traditionally
Pasquale.
So Pasquale, who is making his lecture on fat tails and extreme value theory. He's going through the different distributions, what happened when you calibrate them. And there is Patrice, who intervenes in the AI. I mean, we do the Patrice is from the beginning to the end in the AI, because it's kind of a dual. I explain the mechanisms of optimization of clustering, which are the core of how you build a neural network, the different kinds of neural networks. And Patrice, who is an expert in R, actually, he wrote several packages in R, will relate, shows the packages, what he does, and he also gives some real practical examples that he's been working on. And this time, and I hope he will stay, because the guy is absolutely exceptional. There is my friend Min Trin, and he has a series of books on artificial intelligence, which I really strongly recommend. He was from Polytechnique here, and in France, which is one of the best school. I mean, the word Polytechnique is poly chosen in France, because any other country, it looks like the little engineer school, whereas it's the one of the top leading schools in France. And he has strong financial experience, was working also in credit rating, and now has published several books on how to organize an AI project, etc. So he's intervening this time on the primer on artificial intelligence, and I hope he will participate in every single primer in the future.
When you said how to organize an AI project, do you mean from an industrial perspective inside a company? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
I mean, one thing is to say, okay, well, we should use AI to make. Now you have a very practical company, right? An industry, a chemist, finance and insurance, etc. And you say, okay, we should use AI to do so and so. Who do you hire? How do you organize that, etc.?
He's going to share some standard operational procedures for the
exactly.
For the executive.
Well, actually, it's really advice on how you build and it looks like well, part of it is well-known method that you would apply even if it's not AI or not AI. That's you always tend to hire the head and then the second layer, etc.
Yeah.
But what is specific to AI? What kind of skills? At least personally, I consider that people who tend to reduce AI to computer scientists, it's a huge mistake, because the mathematical component, the understanding of the data interaction, etc., is enormous. And if you hire people who have no clue of the math, then you get just people who are like kids playing with I press the red button and give that, I press the blue button and give that, so etc. And they have no understanding. It is finally they build heuristics, but they don't have an understanding of why this works, and this is how you progress. Actually, if you want to build a system, you need to ask the question why that works, because you will keep the thing that works, take care of what could make it fail, and build the next layer of the system, and that's how you optimize the system eventually. in a robust manner. So understanding the why is absolutely crucial.
Who would you recommend to take the primers? Who are the main personas to
I mean,
gain?
I would, can I reverse your question? Who I could recommend not to take the primers?
Okay, sure.
I mean, if someone knows that he doesn't have the math capabilities and etc., the primers came from people who took the RORI, the real world risk lectures, and we're asking a bit the step beyond for the math to really implement what was taught there. Nassim gives some, big, high level ideas, but how do you do it in practice? And that's how, after, people were asking on the loop, what to do. I said, well, okay, maybe I should do a lecture. Oh yes, please. So it came this way. So it's really done for people who, I'm not talking of the very high level math, etc. We can have a high level math discussion if you want, but that's not the goal of the primers. The primers is more like, a certain number of recipes that you should apply for a certain number of problems to be able. So once someone tells you, okay, well, do that, here you get the method to do it. And that's so someone who is not ready, who doesn't have neither the concern nor the capability, he can be a manager, but he says it's not my role to understand how I will do this calculation. If he's curious and wants to understand what his team is doing, yes, he should take the primer. If he thinks that's not my role and anyway I would not understand, I'd rather tell him, okay, well, that's okay. Do your thing and send your collaborators who will take advantage of it to the primers. Primers are still, I mean, the goal is to explain the elementary mathematics to implement. When you hear a word, at least I tell you what is behind the word. I give some example of Bayesian statistics. Okay, people who see the word Bayesian all the time. So what is it really? That will explain exactly what it is, etc. I'm not going to make a huge lecture on Jeffrey Pryor, etc. That's not the topic.
How that apply into business setting.
But what is it talks about, so that when you see it, you understand what you are talking about.
All right. We really appreciate your time and your ideas and your insights and your examples and your experience from life and from your real practice.
Sometimes learn with a few scars, but yes.
And thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you for this interview. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
Packed with insights and have to share.
Absolutely. Okay.
Speak to you soon, Raphael, and take care.
Yeah, the primers is in 8.
Yeah, it's in the beginning of April. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay,
we'll mention everything, the information
Thank
in
you.
the description.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.